You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At Public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch. The only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. To learn more, please visit public.com/optionblock. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time to commence operations here on our broadcast week. Time for a little show we call around these parts, the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you're ready and raring to go. Some folks chiming in saying they had a decent weekend on the long UVIX trade. Yeah, it opened higher. It's always nice. It's always nice if you're doing Russell's secret weekend trade out there to have a higher rather than a lower open. That tends to be how that thing works. But glad to see everyone's had a good weekend and you're ready and raring to go. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network, upon which all of you folks are binging and mainline. I hope you're enjoying the newest edition as well, the Futures Rundown. We're enjoying bringing it to you, so hope you're having a good time out there. Remember, get the full network if you want to hear everything we're doing out there. And then, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want even more content, you want a pro podcast feed that brings you not one but two shows a week, great pro Q&As and options oddities. You want to join our members who are winning fabulous prizes, just like I think it was Tyler last week who won it, our September Pro Trading Crate. Only one place to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. As we are joined today on the Monday show by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw, as well as by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. I say that to get them ready, listeners. They need to get their hands on their buzzers. We've had a lot of fun with these audio daily doubles lately, so I think we're going to keep the trend going. Last couple of weeks, of course, it's been 80s TV themes. It's been fun. So I think without further ado, we will dive back into that well. Can you name this tune, listeners? Can you guess what TV show this is the theme of from the 80s? Here we go. of a deeper cut this week. I can see, we got a buzz. All right. Let's lower it a little bit. We'll still have it going in the background because it's fun. But a deeper cut.
Like that what is it, the All-American Hero?
Oh, you're thinking of the Greatest American Hero?
Greatest American Hero.
That's a good guess, actually. But no. Uncle Mike, can you come in for the steal?
Taking a flyer here, I'm going to go with Simon and Simon.
That's not a bad one as well. You both are making good guesses. That's another good show that has a fun theme song. But no. Tell you what, for half point, I'll throw out a hint for you folks out there. This show became iconic, and its main character became iconic. So iconic that his name became a verb. You would blank if you did something. Like, let's say you were putting a bunch of random things together to make another device. You were blanking something. I'm going to blank this. Oh,
I got it.
Tosaw buzzed in first. What you got?
I'm going to go with MacGyver.
Yes.
Yeah.
MacGyver. Yes. He would have a
Oh my God.
he would have a shoestring and some bubble gum, and he could make a nuclear bomb. So that was, yes. But the guy's theme song, until that part, not quite as iconic as some others. So a little bit of a deeper cut, but a fun one nonetheless.
I can't believe I couldn't guess MacGyver after that hint. My God.
Half point.
I almost should just concede at this point. I can't guess MacGyver.
No, you were at least in the ballpark. You at least guessed an 80s show. That was good. And you'll be at this.
I didn't even have the name right.
This is the harder one. I'll give you both a pass for making that first miss. But you recovered on the second swing as we keep on rolling. Did you get MacGyver, listeners? Did you like watching MacGyver, doing a little MacGyvering in your own life? As we keep on rolling right on into a little bit of the old trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. I do like that actor, Richard Dean Anderson, went on to have an even longer run on the show Stargate SG-1, and they would make repeated references to MacGyver on that show, which I thought was kind of funny. But a conversation for another day as we get on into a little bit of the old market action out there. And as I mentioned, the UVIX crowd was happy on the open today, which means vol's probably a little firmer to start the week, which means the markets are probably a little bit red. And that's pretty much what we're seeing out there right now. Nothing crazy. Dow off 0.5%, S&P off 1/3%, NASDAQ off 1/3%. And I keep saying this. One of these days I'm going to remember, listeners, to also pull up small caps when we do this, off about 2/3% in small caps. And VIX cash getting a little bit firmer to kick off the week, right around 21.25 when we kicked off the show, which puts us up about 0.5 point from where we were on the Thursday episode. VVIX, right around the same level, kicking around 113. That puts it up about 1 point from where it was on the Thursday show. So a little bit firmer on the vol side to start the week, but nothing crazy out there. Let's go around the horn to our winner this week and our current reigning, defending, undisputed 80s trivia champion. Mr. Uncle Mike, if you have any enduring memories of MacGyvering things as a kid, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye in an Uncle Mike not really type of day?
So in terms of MacGyver, I think my biggest MacGyver story is that I remember in college I needed a vehicle, so I bought my uncle's old laundry truck for $200. And I had a friend of mine that just happened to have a luxury conversion van captain's chair. And so I thought, this will be cool. I'm in college. And so it was just an old laundry van. It was because he owned a dry cleaners. And so I ended up putting a Ford captain's chair into a Dodge Maxi van. And I was the only kid on campus that drove an old laundry truck with an extreme souped out luxury captain's chair from a Ford in a Dodge that I MacGyvered in. I was very proud of that van. So that's my MacGyver story.
Did you use duct tape and chewing gum to put it all together, sir?
No duct tape, but duct tape was used for other things in that van. So, I had to touch wires together to get the power windows to go up and down. There was plenty of other duct tape in other areas of that van, but not for the chair. So
sounds like a rolling death trap, which is appropriate, sir. What else is catching your eye out there in this not really Uncle Mike type of day, sir?
Well, I mean, in terms of the markets themselves, excuse me, we have the S&P 500 down 20 points on the day, which is really not that much for the S&P these days. So it's really, I would consider this a more flat market. The things that are catching my eye, silver and gold are down on the day a little bit. But what is catching my eye that is kind of not necessarily making me wonder, so to speak, but just keeping my eye on things over the course of the next few weeks is the sell-off in bonds, or the increase in rates in bonds, in that we got our Fed 50-point thing that we were wanting, so to speak. And probably for the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had a little bit of a sell-off in the bond market. And my question then is, or what I'm looking at, is that are we just pulling back because of the anticipation is what drove this market higher? We got our 50 points. It's a sell the news type of a sell-off, if you will. Not really a major sell-off, but just bonds pulling back a little bit. So would this be a buying opportunity for bonds, or is this the beginning of bonds coming down and inflation coming, whatever the case may be? Bonds are something that I'm really keeping a close eye on, or that's something that's really lighting up my tape, if you will, for something to keep an eye on. The other thing, and I'll be interested to hear Andrew's take on this, is the fact that we don't have a major market down, not a ton of market downturn by any means. Like, we're down 0.38% on the day with the S&P. VIX cash is up almost 10%. Now, I'm sure there's some weekend effect in there, but very interested in hearing Andrew's take on the VIX seemingly being up higher than it should be based upon where the market's down move actually is. A couple individual names that I'm just keeping an eye on at this stage. The main one that I think that's sticking out to me at this stage is NVIDIA. That's up 3.8% on the day, or up 470 on the day. So NVIDIA is getting closer. It's back. It looks like it didn't quite hit 130 again today, but it's knocking on the door of 130. And then for the most part, there's really nothing else that's making any major moves by any means. But the main thing that I'm watching right now is the continued sell-off in the bond space. Maybe we can MacGyver something for it.
Got to MacGyver something together to save the bond market. Mr. Uncle Mike, or excuse me, Mr. Rocklops, you have been invoked, sir. So what is catching your eye out there? And what do you make of this this vol movement with, as Uncle Mike deems it, a not exactly appropriate move in the S&P?
Yeah, I think in our house, MacGyver it was an actual verb. Like the kids, because that was kind of an appropriate TV show, for whatever kids like 12, 13, MacGyver, and they would do stuff like that. They'd build their wheel structures or whatever, in things. So MacGyver was a good hint, and I think Tosaw's truck, if he used duct tape on his vehicle, I think duct tape and/or chewing gum would be you could use that would be a MacGyver something. Those
are definitely two MacGyver requirements.
Yes, yeah, one or the other, and it's like a double star if you use both.
And then MacGyver would use it always to incapacitate the bad guy, but then never take his gun. Drove me crazy as a kid. I was like, take the guy's gun. You don't need to build the nuke out of chewing gum if you have the guy's gun. But no, he would never do that. He would always incapacitate them with some.
Not need a gun.
Yes, Rube Goldberg device to incapacitate someone and then never take their gun. But I digress.
Yes, he'd make a slingshot out of who knows what, but why just pick up the weapon and put a couple caps in somebody? Anyway, but that made a good family viewing, I guess. Only the bad guys had the guns. So as far as today goes, and what's funny is, when everybody, like when you look at like the economy in general, I would say, except for some fits and starts over historically, and you could argue how those fits and starts come about. But you would say like, okay, the U.S. economic system generally works. Because it's the election season, so there's a lot of arguments and pundits, but you got to say, like, over the last couple hundred years, if you had to look at a strong trend, for instance, and I think Mike and I and you all believe, like, the system pretty much works. All right. Now, it's not perfect. We could do this and that, but and it's really up to politicians of all parties not to screw it up too much. So, but if you spend endless amounts of money, like the government, you're going to get economic growth. You're going to get it. It's going to happen. Hard for it not to happen. The question is how much economic growth do you get for the cost? So if we have rising GDP with low inflation, I think we've had that historically, and then just, the last several years, we've had rising GDP, but very much higher inflation. Like, there's really, I don't think any prices are, like, inflation is not going down. The rate of inflation has stopped going up, but, I saw this good analogy. It's like, okay, well, I put on, 5 years ago, I put on 40 pounds, then I put on 20 pounds, then I put on 30 pounds, then I put on 10 pounds. And all of a sudden you're 100 pounds overweight. And that's kind of where we are. So until government spending slows down again, we're going to get this fits and starts. Could inflation reignite next year if we don't get no matter who's in power, right? There's no magic wand. Is it going to reignite? And my guess would be yes. I don't like to being a Cassandra, but I think we're at that point now at, several trillion to whatever trillion extra per year. We're kind of at that point that helps create inflation. So we'll see. Hopefully somebody in Congress maybe gets a clue, but we would need hundreds of people to get a clue. But with rates going up, now all of a sudden everybody's, okay, they're getting the rates, they're getting rate cuts, the Fed's saying they're gonna, but the bond market stopped believing it, at least short term. So, and I think that's where we find ourselves. Is our stock selling off because of that? I don't think so at all. You got today's another day, so it's a day that NVIDIA can go up. So AI growth, that whole growth story, still strong. We had increasing earnings in the S&P 500. So all of those things are like, they're positive, they're bullish, they're good. But that's normally, okay, everybody just, that's normally what happens. Like maybe 9 out of 10 years in a decade. That's normally what happens. And every once in a while you get some imbalances. Again, you can look historically, but generally the government helps encourage those weird imbalances because they do things kind of big and don't really think too much about it. So from this point of view, we definitely have growth. I think the big problem now is, okay, does this Israel Iran thing become worse? Yeah, and I don't know. I think that's certainly contributing to VIX going straight up. It's contributing to the strangest VIX curve I have seen since I started. Because when I was a floor trader, when you were floor, I don't think VIX was trading when you were a floor trader, Mark. Me neither. I just learned all about it over the last.
No, it was just an abstract number on the OEX when I first walked on the floor of the SIBO. Yeah.
Exactly, right? You're like, oh, what's that? We used to look at that money, at the money vol. Now, is it a great product that has tons of information in it and a lot of option pits business is just helping people? Yeah, you can become a better trader if you understand how the vol products work 100%, because there's so many interesting things to do relative to the dollar that you spend. It's a lot easier for options to just blow up, basically, when you trade the vol products, if that's what you're looking at or looking for. So right now you have a curve where, and today is the first day, actually, I would say, that VIX actually has backwardated across the curve. And I think what's happening, the problem with that is, well, not a problem, just let's say a condition or a symptom, is that like people want this Israel Iran thing to be done. And however it is done, they want it. I think from trader point of view, they want it done. When traders don't really know what to do, they're going to just raise the vol. So when you were a trader, floor trader, and all of a sudden everything looks sketchy, what did you do? You jacked the vol up. And you kept moving it higher until somebody came and sold it to you. And then every once in a while, they had the dreaded how now after you sold some, and then they went how now. So you would keep selling options and they keep going up in price. Everybody thinks that, a floor trader thinks, oh, that was easy. They just threw money at you every day. That's not exactly how it worked. Because usually as a floor trader, you were the last to get the news, right? You would start to see the news in the order flow. But what drove the order flow, you wouldn't know till usually after the fact. So right now, the October future has had a steady rise for the last 2 weeks. And when I started watching, it was like 17, and now it's 21. And because of the way the calculation works for the futures, it is now sampling that November vol. The November vol around the election is picking up more because it's not clear. There's no, I don't believe, polling, whatever, but it doesn't look like there's a clear, either side, either party has a lead. Either side, it all sounds so ridiculous, really. But at least for right now, you have that. So you have now, okay, so rates going up, maybe not what the market really wanted. So that's a little surprise. The election thing, again, I think most people just want it to be over. I think the average normal person just wants it to be over because it's a little ridiculous at this point. And then third, you've got this Iran, whipped cream with a cherry on top problem. Iran, Israel. So what happens is like the market is staying extremely close to all-time highs. So what in my head that tells me investors don't want to dump their stocks. They look at NVIDIA, they look at chips, they look at growth, they look at potential, China's starting to pump their economy up. They see some growth, and nobody wants to sell. So, but as we kind of wind down on uncertainty, the liquidity gets a little thinner, and then we're looking maybe for that snap back, like a rubber band. So I think that's where we find ourselves. And how long will it go? It just feels like it's gonna be like a bit of a Groundhog Day until something happens. A lot of the major oil stocks are making multi-year highs this week. So if you're lucky enough to own some Exxon or some Chevron or any of the big majors, I don't think they've hit these levels in quite a few years. So Chevron is trading, 152. Well, now Exxon is at a multi-year high. I know Exxon has kind of been the poster boy that the Green New Deal kind of people try to sue all the time. But Chevron's not making, trying to get back to year highs, but Exxon is definitely making a multi-year high. So I think it is a very mixed bag for everybody. And I don't think it's going to change until this Israel-Iran thing gets to some point. And right now, everything just the rhetoric just everything feels like it just keeps escalating. It's not really pulling back yet. So anyway, we'll see how that goes down. But anyway, that's where I think it stands. So you have volatility is definitely pointing higher. That's even though the market's not moving anyway, I think realized vol is like 6%, and VIX is 21. So you could see already that the risk premium and volatility is enormous at this point relative to how the market's moving. So it is looking for something in the not too distant future that is not happening currently. And I will leave it right there.
All right, let's see where the markets leave us right now, listeners. Coming in to this part of the show. Is it a banger volume day out there? Yeah, not really, but it's respectable. All things considered, listeners. Let's kick things off in VIX land. VIX putting up, again, a respectable 417,000 contracts. That sounds even more respectable when you see that the ADV has come in a bit to 844,000 contracts. So we're close to halfway there already to that little bit lower ADV we're seeing out there right now. It's like the big dog out there today in VIXland right now are the Nove doubles. My favorite strike, 46,000 of those bad boys. It's like they're going up against 27,000 for number 2 of the OC 50. So I think we have a bit of a roll going up there. There is a little bit of ratio fun going up out there as well with the, I believe it's a ratio vertical in VIXland as well. It's the, OC 4550 ratio going up 6,000 by 15,000 times as well. So that accounts for some of those OC 50s. That's all going up around the same time. So maybe a bit of a close of the OC and rolling out to a Nove. But either way, that's your 1 and 2, number 3 in VIXland today. 26,000 of the October 25. So kind of playing all over the place today out here in VIXland. Again, 417,000 contracts on the tape in VIX. Is SPY lighting it up? You know, if you see VIX around that level, I think you can expect SPY to be kind of light today as well. And that's pretty much what we're seeing. SPY not even at its 4 1/3 million contracts we usually expect this time of the show. Right around 3.95 million out there. The ADV is about a little over 8, about 8.7 million out there. 8.07, excuse me. So not quite halfway there, but pretty close. The S, same deal. About exactly 1.5 million, about 250,000 contracts below where we expect it, but almost exactly halfway to its ADV, which is 3.02, pretty much exactly halfway now. Just ticked up 1.51 million. So yeah, putting it exactly halfway to its ADV of 3.02 million. Small caps listeners, are they on fire out there today? I think if you can see the other ones, you're probably not expecting much, and that's pretty much the case. 463 on the tape in small caps, the ADV 1.37 million. We got a ways to go to get there today, listeners. And the NASDAQ also feeling a little sluggish out there today as well. 1.96 million. Usually we expect at least 2.25 this time of the show. The ADV close to 4 million, about 3.89 million out there. All right, to the single names we go. Is it a banger single name day out there? The answer is no, but it's respectable. A little bit north of 250,000 contracts. That's what it cost you to break into the top 10 this week. That gets you to our old pal Meta. Number 10, 253,000 contracts. They're coming from Meta today. 4 3/4 to the dark side, trading $591.20. It's had over an $11 range today. $591.83 is the low, which obviously is wrong because we're at $590.97. I love when my data doesn't update, listeners. And the high was $602.95. So over an $11 range. Quite the wild day here for Meta. Hanging out near the low end of its range right now. Good for a little bit north of 250,000 contracts and the number 10 spot. Number 9, we're heading out to MicroStrategy. So if you're intrigued by all things MicroStrategy, they do like to delve in a little bit of the old BTC. Don't tell Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike, cover your ears. 189 even right now, about $12.50 or about 7%. So they're feeling their oats out there. Looks like they're going to increase their Bitcoin holdings, and that's enough to drive up all and sundry in the crypto space, at least for right now. Number 9, MicroStrategy, 277,000 contracts. We haven't talked about them before. Let's look really quickly. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, it's a bunch of calls, but we don't know until we crunch the data, listeners. Yeah, the big dog out there, 14,000 of the OC pars, the 200s, expiring this week. And then we also have about 10,000 of the 190s also expiring this week. Both of those opening, so could be a vertical, but it's probably just straight up buying them. Yeah, someone bought the 300s for this week for 3 cents, almost 1,000 times. Expiring this week, 300s. Oh my goodness. For frame of reference, listeners, we are at 189.12 right now. Just ticked up a little bit. The OC 300s expiring this Friday for 3 cents. Wow. We've seen some enthusiasm before. That is enthusiasm to the next level. Number 9, MicroStrategy, 277,000 contracts. Speaking of enthusiasm, man, people have been enthusiastic about this name. We'll be coming back to it in a few minutes. Spoiler alert. This is our old pal TIGR, actually making its way into the top 10 this week. That's how much action is going up in this name. 282,000. So it's not like it's a quiet day, 150, and they snuck in at number 10 with 151. 282,000 contracts on the tape in this name. Trading 12.20, actually off 20 cents. But yeah, I said a 12 handle now in TIGR. Yeah, we'll come back to this in a little bit. But TIGR, man, number 8, 282,000. Keeping that theme of all things China are green, apparently. It's Baba, number 7, 311,000 contracts, 115 and 3/4, up about $1.25 or about 1%. You folks cannot get enough of anything Chinese. ADRs, all the rage right now. My goodness. Number 6, it's the Amazonians, 181.5. I guess you're done with Amazon. Off a little over $5. We're seeing some downgrades come across the board for some of the big tech names, including Amazon, getting slapped by Wells Fargo today. So they're off about 5 1/3, almost 3%, 181.20 right now. Good for number 6, 423,000. Keeping the A tech strip alive. It's number 5. It's the AMDs of the world, 171 3/4. They say downgrade, schmowngrade. We don't care about any of that stuff on the street. We're rallying today. 171 3/4, up nearly a full buck today. Good for number 5, 422,000 contracts. And then the A tech love continues. It's number 4. It's the fruit company. 424,000 contracts on the tape. So another one looks like they got hit with the downgrade, this time by Jefferies. Wells Fargo, Jefferies. I guess they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning and said bam to all of these A tech names. 224 even, off about almost $3, about 280, a little over 1, about 1.25% for the fruit company. If you're playing the long game, though, still up about 50 handles from where they were when they announced that stock buyback. So you're still up pretty good on this name. Let's just look really quickly. Year to date, up about almost 21%. Not a bad do, as the kids say. Number 4, 424,000 contracts. If the kids do say that, let me know. That would be hilarious. Number 3, yes, I said number 3. Looking light today. It's Tesla. 761,000 contracts on the tape. 243.80, off about 6 1/4 or 2.5%. So they are coming for Tesla. Did they get downgraded today? Who knows? Looks like more sellers than buyers out there today. Again, good for number 3, 761,000 contracts on the tape. It's the lightest we've seen Tesla in a while. It's roughly half what we expect Tesla to be delivering out there. And then we keep on rolling, listeners, out to another hot name, not usually in our top 10, but making it today. It's SMCI, 46.80, up $5.60 or 13.5%. AI boom drives 100,000 quarterly GPU shipments. So there we go, listeners. More buyers than sellers out there in SMCI today. Popping hard. If past is prologue, probably a lot of call paper out there as well. Let's take a quick peek, shall we, listeners? And we got to keep on rolling. We're coming up against it already. All right, 54,000 of the OC 50s expiring this week. I said we're at 46.82 right now. That's all opening paper. And then the 50s expiring regular monthly as well. So folks, feeling their oats out here in SMCI. Number 2, that means the big dog is NVIDIA, listeners. 129.5, up 4.5 or 3.65%. So just feeling their oats out there yet again today. Oh, an analyst comes out and says it could soar another 561%. So there we go. 3.01 million contracts on the tape for NVIDIA. One of the busier days we've seen in a little bit out there. Good for the number 1 spot, as we expect. Not much earnings to speak of, but don't worry. If you're waiting for earnings, we are just days away, listeners, from the unofficial kickoff of earnings season. Just later this week, Thursday, we got Delta, we got Domino's, a pizza, and then Friday, it hits hard with JP Morgan. We got BlackRock, we got Wells Fargo, we got all the financials coming for you this week, and that's when earnings season proper kicks off. Don't worry, we'll have updated earnings move results, and earnings season reports when all that stuff hits. Meanwhile, it's time for the odd block to hit, so here we go.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, I teased it. I said we're going to go back there really quick. Let's just go right back to TIGR because this is a beast. Its name is appropriate. It seems like it's been dominating our odd block pretty much for an entire week. We started talking about it a week ago. As you recall, last week, listeners, this time a week ago, Uncle Mike and I were parsing the Jan 6s for $1, 5,000 times. We thought, man, that's kind of rich. Stock 581, at a new 52-week high. Well, pshaw to all that noise, because just last Thursday on the show, we talked about the stock had rallied to 8 3/4. We talked about someone gobbling up the Jan 12s for $1.85. And if that wasn't enough for a little bit of extra fun, they gobbled up the OC 17s for 30 cents, 1,113 times. And we thought, okay, that's clearly where the momentum has to run out. But I say nay, listeners. As I told you earlier, TIGR just continues to deliver. It got up to $14.48 this morning. That is their new pretty much 52-week. I'm not sure if that's an all-time high, but definitely a 52-week high for TIGR. So $14.50. So those 12s were looking great. They were within spitting distance of hitting those 17s, listeners. I mean, wow. Just wow out here. Well, you know what? They can't seem to get enough of this name today, listeners. They came in this morning when the stock was $12.09, which is pretty much about exactly where it is right now, $12.04. So I don't know if they bought these the first go around when we were breaking through or breaking to the downside. By the way, they bought these when the stock was $12.09. They came in and scooped 3,000 of the April 10s for a whopping $6. So I mean, you're paying 50% of the value of the stock for a call that expires in April. Now I know every call you buy at this point is a good do, and also these are $2 in the money, so there's a little bit of intrinsic value you're looking at there. But still, this is a hefty meatball you're putting together. 163 is the vol, in case you're wondering. You're going to get earnings. They're in November. Not that those really matter with this name. And if that's not enough, somebody also come into play today. A little bit more OC goodness, just to sprinkle on top. They said those OC 30s, or no, excuse me, not OC 30s, those OC 17s, pshaw to that. How about OC 25s, 2,100 of those bad boys for 35 cents. They bought these this morning when the stock was $12.73. They said, you know what, this stock is pretty much going to exactly double over the next couple of weeks, and I want to be there when it does. I'm willing to pay 35 cents for the privilege. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, on the one hand, these are very easy to mock, paying 50% of the value of the stock for a call. On the flip side, we've mocked these over the last week, and they've been laughing all the way to the bank. I mean, these calls, each one is more ridiculous than the last, and most of them have been paying. So, I don't know. Mr. Rock Lobster, what say you? More madness afoot here in TIGR, sir.
I'm just looking at this, and so apparently a Chinese fintech that has financial technology platform, multi-product investment experience. It kind of sounds like Robinhood. And it has caught everybody's. Now, I remember I did the futures show with you a couple times, and I'm not a futures trader. Way back when I traded some futures, but now I'm just kind of stay in the option game. And didn't you say like the number one traded contract in the world was like Chinese rebar, yes, or
Shanghai
like Chinese
rebar, and then the Kospi was there for a long time. I think they've adjusted the Kospi now, the Korean Kospi. But yeah, those were both up there. Yeah.
So I think there is a little bit of and I don't know what the liquidity is in Chinese markets. I don't know what any, don't really but I feel like this is, could be maybe some mainland speculation coming over, because it's some, like, I'm just looking at the volume today in October. There's 20,000 of the 15s, 27,000 of the 20s, 16,000 of the 25s. Volatility is up to 303%. So, I mean, we mock them, but this was all the same with GameStop, right? And then, although that was later in the cycle, this is pretty early in the cycle. So, I think if I had to pick a call, I would rather pick the November, the November 6 calls for $6 instead of buying the 25s for $1, I guess. I'm just, what's easier for one to double or not? I guess it would be the 6s, just stock going up another $6. But who am I to judge on this one? But I am. So I would just say that, yeah, they're definitely coming for it. They are not stopping. And I think, when a government just pours liquidity, I guess the Chinese can just use their reserves. So, hey, we're going to give it to everybody locally instead of doing something with it. They got a pretty big reserve to tap on. 30 years of accumulating treasury bonds, right? So anyway, how high can these stocks go? But normally these liquidity things don't last forever. So these could pay, and I don't know enough about this particular stock, but I think it would be. I think the 10 calls, at least they have a shot, but the 25 calls for expiring in a couple weeks for 35 cents, I think that's going to be a tough one. But you never know. The stock's already doubled once. Why not do it again?
Why not, indeed? Have you been riding the Tiger, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know as we keep on rolling. Let's keep this Asian e-commerce love going here with a little bit of Coupang, ticker symbol CPNG, trading $25.93, up about $1.33 today, or 5.5%. Nice little day for them today as well. They said they were double upgraded, whatever that means at Bernstein. I don't know how you get double upgraded, but they were double upgraded today, apparently. They're having a good year as well today, up 8.25%, about 47%. This is not China this time. This is the largest online marketplace in South Korea, even though they're headquartered out of the U.S., they claim here. So kind of interesting dual roles here, but they're feeling all that Asian e-commerce love, listeners. And it looks like somebody is feeling it as well out there today, because they came in this morning with the stock at $26.05, pretty close to where it is right now, which was, by the way, a 52-week high, and said, these 27s, how are they? They got $1.55 at $1.67. They said, I'll pay $1.64 for 2,091 of those bad boys. They are getting earnings in this cycle. The next announcement is on November 5th, so they get a little bit of extra bang for their buck out here. So, I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster, it is a new 52-week high, but I guess compared to some of these other trades we're talking about, these are somewhat reasonable. What do you think?
Well, compared to anything trading in TIGR, I would say yes.
Yes, exactly.
So, and in South Korea, I mean, that's one of the better except for every time Kim Jong-il or whatever, he says something crazy or launches but I mean, if you look back, like, when Trump was president and he went in and they did the happy dance for a while, the Korean indexes would look really bad because everybody thought the worst, and then you probably made a small fortune investing in this company way back when. But I think at least the 27 calls, I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it's right at the money. The stock is moving, so it could pay. Is it passing day one sniff test? It is not passing the day one sniff test. They're already down a penny or two. But, I mean, relative to the TIGR calls, yes, I would be buying these over that. Like South Korea, like Amazon style internet thing at, like twice revenue. It's not an unreasonable, I don't think it's an unreasonable purchase on those calls. I like that one, actually, as far as like bang for the buck. I think that's something you could, double your money or get 50% or something on pretty easily.
Yeah, not terrible. They're buying some duration. They're not spending 50% of the value of the underlying to do it. Doesn't expire next week. A lot of things to like about this. Certainly comparatively there is. As we keep on rolling, let's see if there's a lot to like with Uncle Mike. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, the floor is yours. You can tell us all about how you've changed your mind on those Jan 6s and TIGR. They are the best things in sliced bread, sir.
I mean, it's hard to argue with such a thing, by all means. So, what I want to talk about today is making sure that you're taking every possible advantage that you can when it comes to planning for your estate tax and using options to do it. Options and estate tax planning. You don't hear about those two together every day. Let's say that you own some stock and you own the stock at a very low cost basis. You bought XYZ stock for $8 a share, and now it's worth $708 a share. And so if you sell that stock right now, then what's going to happen is you're going to incur a capital gains tax, whether long-term or short-term, depending on how long you've held the stock, but you don't want to pay it. And let's say that you're at a point now to where you're retired and you really don't want to take on all that much risk. And you still own this stock, you don't want to sell it, but you really don't want to pay the taxes on it, but you're uncomfortable with the risk. And let's say it's not just one stock. Let's say it's a variety of stocks. Let's say that you have a stock portfolio. It's increased in value fairly significantly, which it's very possible with markets near all-time highs right now. And you're just having a hard time selling it because, number one, you don't want to sell, but number two, it's going to be a really nasty capital gains hit. Well, a couple of choices that you have. The first one is that you can continue to hold your stock until you pass away. And then all of that stock would go to your heirs at a stepped up cost basis. So what that means is the day you pass away, if you were to leave the stock to your kids, then their cost basis on it would be whatever the closing price was of those stocks the day you passed away. So that's one way with which you can increase the cost basis. It's kind of like a built-in death Roth IRA in a lot of ways, in that you're not going to pay any taxes on them should you hold on to them until you're passing. Now, here's the question, though, or here's the concern with doing that, because I do have clients that are looking to do that and have done that. When doing that, you still have to hold the stock, and there's risk to it. And so one of the things that I think can make sense is that if you're looking to possibly buy some index put options, let's say that you determine that your basket of stocks matches a certain index, whether it's the NASDAQ, the S&P, whatever the case may be, you can buy puts on them. You can buy 1 month puts, 1 year puts, 2 year puts, whatever you feel is best for your specific individual situation. You have the ability to do that. And so in doing so, what you do is you've then created a way with which to take advantage of the step-up tax benefit upon death, but still have protection in place. Now, of course, protection isn't free. You may have to sell some shares to finance the protection. You may have to get revenue from other sources, whatever the case may be, but it's important to have a plan in place as to what are you going to do for what time frame, as well as how are you going to provide the financing. Now, I'll be expanding on this in my webinar after the show, and I am doing a webinar today after our show is over. So go to adaptivewebinars.com to find out more about it, because the show will continue after this show.
Here we go, listeners, as we keep on rolling into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the next episode for this show, which is, of course, Thursday. We also take a peek at our question of the week, which just went live right as we were kicking off the show, listeners, which is quite simply, we're about a month out from the election now. A lot's going to happen between now and November 5th. Maybe a few October surprises sneaking in there as well. However, when the dust settles, where will the VIX open on Wednesday, November 6th? And we gave you 4 relatively meaty ranges to sink your teeth into. Obviously, we're going out a month. A lot can happen. So we couldn't just do our standard 1 or 2 points. We had to widen out those ranges. We gave you 4 full points in each of these events. Some of them even more, obviously, as you'll hear in a second. So we gave you around here, so somewhere in the 18 to 22 range, or a little bit higher, 22 to 26 range, or still higher, we're shooting up north of 26, or we're going back down to the sub 18 range. Remember, this is on the open after the dust hopefully settles on Wednesday, November 6th. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. What is your vote? Where do you think our audience is voting? And then what are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show, sir?
So post-election, I think post-election there will be such a big relief that I would be surprised if volatility was above 18. I'm going to say below 16. So that's the camp that I'm in on that.
You don't even have that choice. So there you go. All right. And then what are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show?
Well, okay, yeah, below 18. So I'll be below 18.
Okay,
below 18.
We'll take it.
Again, I guess you don't even have to keep an eye on it. You're just going to watch the market go up or down a ton. So Middle East, the Middle East mess really, and then we have some CPI, PPI, which my guess is they're going to come in at or just a little up.
There you go. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. Where do you think our audience has fallen in our VIX poll? And then B, what do you keep an eye on until the Thursday show?
I thought I was going to be the contrarian because I was thinking the same thing that Andrew was, in that I think that we are going to have a little bit of relief. So I don't know if I'll say below 16. I'm going to say below 18 because I watched The Price is Right as a kid, and you never want to go over what someone else goes over. And in this case, I'm not going to go under what the under was. So I'm going to go with that. And in terms of what I'm watching, just like I said earlier, in addition to markets being just below all-time highs, watching the bonds, seeing how they react to it, and seeing what they have to say about the whole rate thing.
Well, our audience is kind of split right now. Again, this just went live a few minutes ago, listeners. Right now, we have the Uncle Mike and Rock Lobster camp of below 18. That's 37.5%. And then also 37.5% for the higher 22 to 26 range. So we got two regimes fighting it out. Then I guess tied for second right now. Still higher, north of 26, 12.5%. And around here, 18 to 22, also 12.5%. Again, just went live a few minutes ago. That'll be our question of the week at Options, the place to go to play along with that. That music means we come to the end of this show, listeners. But don't worry. If you need more goodness in your life, I'll be back in a little bit with the crypto rundown to break down all the madness in the world of all things crypto derivatives. Listeners, we got our old pal Mr. Bill joining us on the show today. He's always a fun one, a diehard crypto aficionado. He and Uncle Mike would get along swimmingly, so she'll be a fun time. Join us for the crypto rundown. If you're listening on demand, of course, just hit next on your device of choice, and we'll be there waiting for you, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, listeners. And before we do that, though, let's go around the horn. Oh, by the way, if you're checking out things online, of course, you know where to go. Public.com/option block, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Check out that rebate, and you're supporting the show while you do it. It's a virtuous circle. Everybody wins, listeners. As we keep on rolling, let's go out to the land of the Rock Lobster. Sir, if folks want more Rock Lobster goodness, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, go to optionpit.com. Any of my goodies this week, although the Flash 10 is, I believe, closed. Looking at using option fingerprints and some long-term open interests. Get a little sense of where people are purchasing. That is now closed. But any of my other products, trading desks, weekly profit cycles, optionpit.com, 888-TRADE-01.
And last but not least, the Uncle List of Mikes. If folks want to check out all your goodies, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw. Also, check out my website if you'd like to set up an appointment to talk with me one-on-one, stcharleswealth.com. And if you want to hear me do a really cool webinar, go to adaptivewebinars.com, and the webinar is going to be starting in about 3 minutes.
Well, 3 minutes. Well, you better get going, sir. In the meantime, listeners, you can check him out, stcharleswealth.com, the place to go to learn more. We got to get on out of here. Back again in a little bit for the crypto rundown. Then we're back again, of course, with our usual array of content. Tuesday, Pro Q&As. Wednesday, our newest doubleheader on the network of the Futures Rundown and Options Bootcamp. Then we're back again on Thursday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch. The only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. To learn more, please visit public.com/optionblock. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.